Hey guys, welcome to the Kick-Ass Living podcast. I'm so excited because I have the honor and pleasure today to have Gary John Bishop on the podcast. Hi, Gary.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Gary is a New York Times bestselling author of the books Unfuck Yourself and has recently released his new book, Stop Doing That Shit. Both books are powerful personal development guides that offer an honest, no-nonsense, tough love approach to help you move past self-imposed limitations. And I quote this: lead the life you are meant to have and unfuck yourself. Awesome. Welcome, Gary.
All right. That's great. That's quite the introduction.
I was just saying to you earlier, I love it that I can finally swear on this podcast because obviously all the fucks and shits right now.
Right. You can get them all out the way early then. Good.
Okay, cool. So Gary, tell me, so what's the story behind you? I know you're originally from Glasgow, hence the amazing, beautiful Scottish accent. I used to have a love and hate relationship with your accent because I went to the UK, to uni. And my main lecturer was from Scotland, from some small village in the north. And the first year, I had no idea what he was talking about. So I think...
Yeah, there's people in Scotland that I struggle to understand too, so you're not alone there.
There you go. So you come from Glasgow, you now live in New York City. You are a best-selling author. How did you become an author, and how did you get into business development?
It was about a dozen, maybe 13 years ago. I started my own personal development journey. I started to do some workshops. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, the idea of doing workshops wasn't one. I mean, I guess in that regard, I'm a typical Scotsman. I just thought, what am I doing, But I did them anyway, and it was fascinating. It was like suddenly I had this realization that I made sense to myself, and it was the first time in my life like all my stuff just made sense to me. So I went on this path of developing myself, but on that pathway I realized that I was becoming increasingly equipped to deliver some of this to people. So in a pretty short space of time, I became a senior program director for one of the largest personal development companies in the world. And I delivered workshops to tens of thousands of people all over the world. Like places like Bogota or Sydney, Australia, or LA, New York, London, I mean, you name it, But then I about 5 years ago, I stopped doing that. It was 33 weeks of the year on the road. It was a lot of traveling. And I started my own little private coaching practice shortly thereafter. And it was in that process someone had said to me, you should write a book, given what you know and what you're continuing to learn. And that was another thing that I pretty much resisted. Like I didn't really see myself as an author. Mm-hmm. But I wrote my first book, Unfuck Yourself, and I self-published it. And within 5 months, it had sold 30,000 copies.
In 5 months?
Yeah. Wow. And it was I was as shocked as anybody else. I just wrote the book that I wanted to write. I didn't really have any great intention other than I wanted to write something that made a difference for people rather than appeal to a certain demographic or something. I just wanted to write a book that made a difference. And then I got a lot of offers for the book. I actually had I think 22 different offers for the book, and eventually settled on a publisher that I was comfortable with. And I think the book right now is close to 1.5 million copies sold. So it's gone pretty big, right? But that whole process really ignited a fire in me. Like I love writing and I love giving away what I've learned and learning new things and finding a way to give that to people that makes a difference.
Amazing. I mean, so that's a big step from like workshops to author, and then the workbook is coming out as well. Do the work for the new book, the Stop Doing.
Right, and it's got. I love. I'm arrogant enough to love the subtitle of my new book. So the book is called Do the Work. Yes. It'll be out October 22nd. The subtitle is The Official Unrepentant, No Kidding, Ass-Kicking Sidekick to Unfuck Yourself. So it kind of, one of the things that it was really important to me, and it's still important to me with everything that I do. I'm never out to regurgitate something that I might have done before. So this is a workbook for Unfuck Yourself, but it's not just like a workbook made out of what's in Unfuck Yourself. It literally stands on the shoulders of it. and there's a lot of new stuff in it, and there's a methodology at play in it that shows you how to take on specific parts of your life and transform them, like really like that they would never be the same. But it includes what you're going to be up against, and what you're going to have to start including in your thinking, and what you're going to have to, what the reality of changing a life actually entails.
So what do you say, like, why do you think most people don't achieve their dream life, or they're not really what's the main reason?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I usually say to something like that is you got to accept the notion that you're full of shit, right? And I don't say that just like some sensationalist thing, I really want you to embrace the idea that you're just full of it. Like, you say stuff and you don't deal with it. Or you might even get caught up in the emotion of something or the passion of something, but never see it through. And usually how we explain that is some kind of willpower, or maybe I'm a procrastinator, right? I don't have willpower, or I'm a procrastinator, some other nonsense that doesn't really cut to what's going on with us as human beings. Fundamentally, as human beings, we are addicted, and it really is like an addiction to things being the same, even when those things are garbage, right? We'll make our garbage okay. Right. So a lot of times you'll say to somebody, well, if you could change something about your life, what would you change? I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe a little something here, or maybe I'd like to lose a bit of weight or a bit more money. We become kind of numbed to our own potential. That once upon a time in our lives, we were all alive to it. We were all like inspired by what was coming. At some point, you get numbed to that. And I've even... Yeah, but I've even had people like literally fighting for the shit they're in, even though they don't like it, they'll defend it. So because something other than the crap you're in is uncertain, and it's a little scary, and we are wired for survival.
Yeah, that's what they say, right? A lot of people like to be stuck in the victimhood, and letting it go is actually more scary than actually facing, what's in it, right? That's what.
Yeah. It's hard for people because we've got an idea in our mind about what a victim is. Most people don't relate to themselves as victim-y, right? Most people are like, oh, that's not me. That's somebody who's complaining and blaming. And no, it's just somebody who's given up in certain areas of life, giving up the idea that you actually have a say in it. That's a victim.
You said just now that at some point, we were really alive and going for stuff, and then we just become numb. Is there some kind of like timing at the time? Do you think, like, I know you have young children, so
yeah,
I have 2 stepchildren, so I know I look to see when the changes are coming.
Yeah,
interested in hearing that.
Yeah. What I usually say to people is, if you're a parent, you're screwed, right? Just like your parents were, right? Like they were screwed. Like they wanted all these plans for you, and they were like, and you could do that, and you were like, oh, I'm going to do whatever I want. And your children will do what you did, so that you'll make up your own version of events and believe it, right? Most of your arguments with your family are about whose version of events are accurate.
Which one's true,
right? And then people even say, no, this happened. No, that never happened. No, that did happen. No, that never happened. And we believe our version of events is reality. Like, that's what's real. And for us it is, but you just got to realize that that's not the case for everybody. They don't see it the way you see it. And it's not because they're in denial. It's because life looks a certain way from wherever you're viewing it from. And if you're viewing life from a parent, it looks a certain way. If you're viewing life from being a kid, it looks a different way. And both are accurate views given where you're sitting. So that's an important thing to understand as a parent. But the real slide for us as human beings happens in our late 20s. It's when that kind of realization begins to hit that either this isn't turning out, or it is turning out and it's not what I thought it was going to, it's not fixing what I thought it would fix, right? So it starts in the late 20s, and it's really kicking in that decade, sometimes 2 decades after, we get having this realization, like, I'm screwed. Like, this isn't going where I thought it would go. And so sometimes people take these radical actions, like, I'm moving to Albuquerque, that'll be the answer, like Albuquerque will fix all my shit. Or I'm divorcing this asshole, that'll be the answer, right? When I divorce this idiot, I'll be amazing, right? The problem is it's still you. It's you in Albuquerque or you with somebody else. Like, and after a while, you'll notice that doesn't quite fix the whole either. So that's why I encourage people to do the work on themselves. You got to work on yourself to get a real sense of what you're actually dealing with, because what you think you're dealing with isn't really what you're dealing with. It's not what's going on around you. It's what's going on with you.
And this is how we self-sabotage, right? Or this is why we do this, right? Because we're not taking responsibility of what's going on. And then we are scared to leave the comfort zone and our cushy, like, kind of environment. And this is self-sabotaging,
Well, responsibility is a funny word, because you have to really explain it to people. Because we mostly associate that word with blame. Like, oh yeah, you're blaming me now by telling me that I should be responsible, right? And the little example I like to use is my kids. I've got 3 boys. The oldest is 14, the youngest is 5. And I say, I don't care. I don't care who messed your room up. What I care about is that you're willing to sit in it. So it tells me a lot about you that you'd be willing to sit in this mess and shrug your shoulders and say somebody else made it. It doesn't matter who made it. The question is, are you going to clean it up? And that's really pertinent for us as adults. We talk about who made the mess. That's irrelevant now. What you need to deal with is that there's a mess and that you need to get underneath it, take ownership of it and deal with it. And that's everywhere in our lives, right? Like our stresses or strains or nonsense or things that don't work. Again, most people don't relate to themselves as some of the things that I talk about. They think I'm talking about somebody else, right? Sometimes I'll put stuff up online and they're like, oh yeah, that's totally my sister.
Yeah.
No, it's you. Right? Or they're like, oh yeah, my mom can do with your book. No, you can do with it. You actually, but it's very hard to see yourself. And that's why I think sometimes books can be invaluable. And certainly that's my approach when I write books. It's an opportunity to see yourself, your ugly side, the things about yourself that you've either resisted or ignored or just, quite frankly, pretended aren't true about you.
It's very interesting because I've just finished listening to your audiobook, Get Your Shit Done. And you're talking about the 3 saboteurs that we have. You talk about the shit we have inside of us and about the people, what you've already just mentioned, the environment.
Yeah.
Can you dig a little bit deeper into
that? Yeah. So it started with like a number of years ago. I mean, all of the insights that I'm sharing with people, I've had them, right? And they awoke me to something. But somebody talked to me about self-limiting beliefs. And it made me really stop for a moment. And I realized that I don't know what my self-limiting beliefs are. Like, I can see somebody else's. I don't know mine. They're not clear to me. Why? Because I believe them. It's not something that I've got going on. It is quite literally how I see things. Right? I'm shaped by my own self-limiting beliefs that for me aren't self-limiting beliefs. What are they? To me, they're the truth. Right? It's like, and it's become such the truth for me that it's melted into the background. I don't even know that it's there. So one that I discovered many years ago was that I'm not smart enough. Now I don't walk around saying I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't say that to myself. I take the actions that someone would take if that was a belief of theirs.
Okay.
So one of my, in the book I talk about the 3 saboteurs, and one of the most powerful saboteurs in your life is this view or belief that you have about yourself. Now, in the book, I actually describe how you ended up with that. And you'll uncover your own. In the book, you'll actually see, I'll show you how to uncover your own saboteur. Like, what is it you say to yourself about yourself? And some people can kind of recollect it pretty quickly. Like, oh yeah, I don't think I'm enough, or I'm not loved, but it's never good news. It's never like, I'm amazing, right? I mean, you might occasionally tell yourself you're amazing. You might tell yourself that every day. But you should try on the idea that you tell yourself that to overcome your own saboteur. Like, it's to keep you on the up, right? What's on the flip of that, though? So for me, it was, I'm not smart enough. And like I said, I didn't walk around saying that to myself. I just lived that life. Didn't go to college, wouldn't engage you in certain conversations because they were too complex for me, right? That was my belief. This is too complex for me. It was one of the reasons why when somebody asked me to write a book, I said no. And I would, at the time I said, I don't have the time. And what that was based on is, I don't have the time that I think this would take for me to write a book because I'm not smart. You understand? So it was very much shaping where I was going, what I was doing, who I was interacting with, what I would expose myself to. I was quite literally shaping my entire life around something that I had concluded 40 years ago. That I'd concluded it. It was like it just sank to the depths of my subconscious and became real. And so that was like a massive wake up for me when I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why have I never challenged myself? And so that thought, like I'm not smart enough, arises every now and again. I'm just no longer willing to live my life by it. And that's the major insight that I got, that it doesn't define me. It's more like it's part of the noise, but it's not what I use as a guide.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Well, you know, what I talk about usually in this podcast or in my work as a speaker is I talk about authenticity. And I'm talking about people are naked. We're born naked. And as soon as we start growing up, we accumulate these layers, you know, of bullshit. And
right.
Is what you always say is that magic little sponge, right? That we actually, you know, we come out in this world and somehow all these layers are on top and they guide us, you know, into a certain direction. And what really struck me in your book as well, and I love that because it really resonated with me. You also said in your book, Get Your Shit Done, that you were believing that nobody cared. That's why, you know, when you actually carried that sofa, you know, that massive sofa into your living room,
right.
that nobody cared. So, I mean, how did you overcome this? Because obviously people do fucking care. I have to say that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was like, if any of your listeners are listening to this right now, one place to look is like your kind of habitual complaints. Like, what is it that comes up consistently in your life, right? So when you figure that out and you start to see, like, what do I say about people generally? What do I say? Because there are good people in the world, right? But I noticed, like, for instance, I would go to the supermarket and I'd be in line and I'd be on edge waiting to see if somebody was going to skip the line, right? Somebody's going to jump the queue. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, here comes somebody now. And my first thought, if somebody wants to jump in front of me, is that they just don't give a fuck, right? Like, that was what was on my mind. Now, I don't know. This person's mother could be dying and they need to, you know, or somebody moves in front of me in traffic. Oh, clearly another person doesn't care, right? Or my son leaves something behind him in the house, doesn't care. Or my wife goes to Starbucks and doesn't get me a coffee, clearly doesn't care about me, right? So it's like, it was freaking everywhere. It was like insane. And then all the other shit that you do that demonstrates that you do care, I mostly just ignore that. Yeah. Like, it doesn't ring my bell. What rings my bell is people don't care. And that was forming my worldview. Like, I'm not smart enough. People don't care. You know, and I'm in that mud every day. So it's been a fascinating way to explore life by noticing that, like suddenly, like how easy I get triggered. And then as life goes on, I find I have a bigger and bigger say in it. I don't have to get triggered. I just notice it as my trigger. It's what I trigger when you might do something. And so it's been really fascinating to start to bring that in house. I'm not interested in having you be different so that I can manage my trigger better, you know, like it's right. It's my trigger. Like, why do I have you on the hook for my shit? You know? So it's been fascinating. It continues to fascinate me. Not that I'm fascinated by myself. I'm fascinated by the notion of a trigger and what it looks like for a human being to finally take ownership of that thing.
Yeah, I think that's super fascinating because that's what we do when we interact with other people a lot, right? We already have our concept of what this person must be like, but just because externally that means they don't like you, but maybe they had doing something completely different.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, totally. So let me see what other question I have for you. Because you've said something about affirmations, like saying, you know, you can tell yourself you're amazing. But
yeah,
does that work? It doesn't work, does it?
Well, it doesn't work all the time. It tends to work with positive people. So people that are typically positive, they can make affirmations work. Being positive, by the way, can be a real negative. So one of the things that I've noticed about positive people is they tend to be very negative about negative people. Like overly negative about negative people. Yeah, you tend to be in judgment a lot. And I know people are like, no, I'm positive. It helps me overcome a lot of stuff. I know, but it also like blinds you to a lot of stuff. Like there's stuff in your life that you could be handling and you're not because you've made it okay, right? Like, oh no, it'll work out. Like, you know, my house is burning down, but at least we're getting warm or something, you know? So that positivity can be a real hindrance. But one of the reasons that affirmations, and I have such a problem with affirmations in general, is because it's like a band-aid over something. It's like telling myself I can, but it's this kind of like big pretense because at some level I don't think I can, right? So I don't give people affirmations, and I don't think I don't think there's enough power in them. And I know people are like, oh my gosh, affirmations are amazing. Okay, fine, it's your opinion. I got it. In my experience of people, if you actually get them to see, so for instance, like if I believe that I can't, right, you can actually produce a result while believing that you can't produce it, right? You can actually have that as a belief, like I don't think I can do it. But if you actually coach somebody and say, okay, well, let's look at the actions that someone would take if they believe that they can, even though you don't believe that you can, what are the actions that someone would take if they believe that they could? And they would actually be able to explain it. Oh, yeah, they would do this and they would do that. And then you would say, okay, well, why don't you believe that you can't and take the actions like you can?
Yeah, and do it anyway.
Why don't you separate the two of them? And you can have that as a belief. You can totally have it. I'm not against it. I just want you to get that what you do and what you think you can do don't have to come together. You can produce results independent of whatever you think.
Yeah, I think I've got to read this really cool quote here from you. You said, in Stop Doing That Shit, there's simply no polite way of telling people they have dedicated their life to an illusion. Yeah, this
right.
is by Daniel Dennett. And this is your whole approach is with tough love, right? And instead of going into this positivity and just, you know, layering over sugar, it's like have a look at it, right? Become aware of, practice awareness of what's going on in your head. What kind of negative self-talk is going on in your head?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I had a long time ago, somebody said, and it was a coach, it was somebody who was coaching me, said, you're an asshole. Okay. And it was the most enlightening thing. Like, it wasn't an insult. I was like, oh my God, I'm an asshole. This is why my life doesn't work, right? It was suddenly like, it made sense. Like, my relationships don't work because I'm in them. I was so busy observing others and how they were doing that was why I thought they didn't work. And at the same time, there were some areas of my life where I blamed it on some flaw of mine. Like, oh yeah, something wrong with me. Rather than, No, you're just blaming either yourself or other people. You're just being an asshole. Take ownership. Step into the space. Like, own the wholeness of yourself. Own the whole thing. And so that was like, this ongoing realization of mine that I'm still uncovering, is that, how life is going has got nothing to do with what's happening around me. It's everything to do with who I am and what I'm doing to further my cause. So the more you realize you are the source of it all, like it's all coming from you, all of it, love, success, abundance, opportunity, it's coming from you. You're not always in a situation that's fair. You're not always in a situation where you have the same shot at something as somebody else does. That's right. You don't have the same shot. What you have is a shot. You have your shot at this thing. And that's what you got to exploit. Like, what is my opportunity here? Rather than, my opportunity is not the same as your opportunity. I know. And sometimes that sucks. And that's the game you're in. As Martin Heidegger would have said, that's what you were thrown into. You were born into that. And you can complain about that, or you can impact it. And I'm out to impact it.
That's actually quite almost answering the next delicate question I'm having for you. Is like, what happens to people who have suffered an extreme trauma? Because I experience that in my work as a coach as well. That people then say, I've encountered and experienced all that abuse and whatnot, and all these marriage situations. Does that apply to these people as well? Like, everybody, because we all
you have to do the work, right? That's why I called that the workbook. Do the work. You have to do the work on yourself. Look, the question that I would ask those people is, why is it you're having this reaction to this stuff and somebody else has the same stuff happen, yet they have a different reaction? I'm not saying that to them to kind of blame them for something. I just want to see the difference. Like, wow, somebody actually could have my situation and respond to it in a different way. How come? And it comes down to this one simple thing. You are burdened by what you've given significance to. So, for instance, if you look at your childhood, you might have had a really crappy childhood. How significant is that to you? How much weight have you given that? Because there are people who are born with, no parents, lived in foster care their whole life, and go on to have like these loving, connected relationships. And you might have been somebody who was born with no parents, and your relationships are a mess. How come? Well, you'll notice you are in all of those relationships. There's a way that you're coming at them. And you might be using something that you made all that mean, some significance that you added to that childhood that you're now paying the price for as an adult. So every human being has a shot, has an opportunity for love, connection, success, abundance. You have a shot at that. The question is, are you going to deal with yourself long enough to take it? Or are you going to just keep looking behind yourself and explain it?
Yeah, very powerful, very powerful. There's just, I've got one more last question before we go into the last round. It's, you said most people, it's obviously we all suffer from negative dialogue or self-talk. How do you deal with your own negative self-talk? What do you do, to stop it?
Yeah, I don't stop. It's kind of like, to me, and I say this in the book, it's the equivalent of scratching an insect bite. Does that stop it, or does it make it worse? It makes it worse, right? The way to handle self-talk is I accept it. I don't struggle with it. It's just there, and I don't listen to it. I don't, I get on with my day. I get on with my life. It's there, This sucks. That sucks. This is terrible. I don't feel good. I'm not inspired. I feel depressed. So what?
Keep going.
And really, like, it's now become this big, massive so what. It never used to be, by the way. It was all very heavy over here. This was very heavy. This was very like, gotta do it. It was very heavy. And I really, for a long time in my life, I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought there was like something not right about me, which if you already believe that, that's not a good place to wake up into, like there's something wrong with me. And then I realized there's nothing wrong with me. I'm a human being. This is what we do at times. And that it's okay. It's okay to be negative. It's okay to be depressed. It's fine. Okay, you can still get shit done. And the more that you get shit done, you'll realize you're not quite as negative. Like you're being accomplished. Which there's a number of philosophers over time have said similar words, but I really believe you're not your thoughts. You have thoughts. Some of them are crap. But where you'll find you is in what you do. That's where you'll find you. You'll find you in what you do. You'll find you in your actions. And if you really start to live life that way, like who I am is what I do, you'll do some great shit.
Cool. Awesome. That was really inspiring. I've got some final questions that I always ask in my interviews. One is there one favorite book or talk that really inspired you that you want to share that you think that's really cool?
There's a couple of things. So there's a book by Viktor Frankl. It's called Man's Search for Meaning, which was I read that book many, many years ago, and it was very influential. It kind of started to open a doorway for me. Then there's a quote by George Bernard Shaw, and I'm going to bastardize it here, but I'll do my best. It's something along the lines of, this is the true joy in life, the being used for a purpose greater than your own, rather than a selfish little clod of ailments and grievances complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. He said that life is a splendid torch, and it is my job to have it burn as brightly as I can before handing it off to future generations. And that's my life. My life is something that it's my job to make it burn brightly until it's time to hand it over.
Amazing. I really like that one with the torch. I have that image in front of me right now.
Right.
Final question. I use nakedness a lot. It has a strong metaphor in terms of authenticity. I used to be a showgirl, so nakedness means a lot to me. So I always talk about that. Many of us are scared of those naked moments, those moments where we're really vulnerable or really embarrassed. And I feel the more we share this and the more we talk about these moments, actually, they power over us. So do you have a naked moment you can share with us in this podcast?
I got tons of them. I really do. So the first thing is, if you're driven by, I'm not smart enough, you never want to get embarrassed, right? So I do share those things, right? Like when I'm embarrassed, right? And this is a simple little thing, but it was a big deal to me at the time, right? Because it was like a moment when my thoughts of I'm not smart enough and what I was doing came together. It was like it was true. And so a number of years ago, I spent 3 months in Italy with my wife and children, and we were living in this little apartment just near Siena in Tuscany. And I was trying to pick up some Italian, So the place we lived, there was no tourists. So it was all locals, So my wife and I, my kids, we stuck out like a sore thumb, Anyway, I'm in the supermarket and I'm going around the supermarket and I've been practicing my Italian, grazie mille, and, all my best Italian. And I bumped into this lady and I wanted to apologize, but I turned to her and I said, sorry. Like I said, sorry with an Italian accent. I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh, you idiot, But then a little shortly after I laughed at just the instantaneous, I was trying to say sorry. I didn't have the Italian word for it. So I just said the English word in an Italian accent.
Actually.
It's so good.
Thank you so much, Gary. It was a pleasure having you here on the Kick-Ass Living podcast. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm going to put all your stuff in my show notes, obviously, so people, if you're interested in the books, you need to read them. As I said, I've just you know, I can recommend the audiobooks. You can keep listening to that amazing Scottish accent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lots of love from Germany to New York City right now.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.